Halloween used to be one of my favorite holidays. Now, I just enjoy it when there's a good party to go to. In 2018, when I was a senior in college, my friend Tracy's sorority was throwing a big Halloween party at the sorority house. She said I could bring one friend, since they didn't want too many outsiders there. So I invited my best friend, Cody. We're both last-minute people when it comes to costumes. The party was that same night, and we didn't have anything to wear. Cody was working late, so he asked me to grab a costume for him, and he'd just send me the money later. I ran to a Spirit Halloween store that had opened up a few minutes from my house. I wasn't looking for anything fancy, just something simple. I grabbed a Where's Waldo costume for myself and a Superman outfit for Cody. Both were on the cheaper side. Everything was normal until I got to the cashier. I was on the phone with Cody while checking out, telling him about the party, what I got him, which sorority it was, and giving him the address. I even mentioned that I'd pick him up instead of meeting that the cashier, a guy who looked somewhere in his 30s or 40s, listened to all of it. He had glasses, a receding hairline, and a strange, awkward presence about him. As he scanned the costumes, he commented, "Sounds like you've got a fun night planned." I laughed politely and said, "Yeah, should be." He kept talking, asking if it was an open invite, saying something about there being a lot of girls. I told him it was a closed party and that I barely got invited myself. He nodded, said all good, then stuck his hand out to shake mine. He introduced himself as Mike. I told him my name was Sean, shook his hand, and left. The whole thing felt weird, but I brushed it off. Later that night, I picked up Cody and we got to the party around 10 p.m. The place was loud music blasting, lights dimmed, Halloween decorations everywhere, and a sea of people with red cups. Tracy greeted us, and we hung around her for a while, playing drinking games and talking. But then, after about an hour, something happened near the front door. There was a commotion, someone yelling for Tracy. We walked over, and the girl at the door asked who Sean was. I raised my hand. She asked, "Who's the creepy guy you invited?" I said, "What creepy guy?" She described an older man in a cowboy costume with a fake mustache. She said he had inappropriately touched one of the girls and tried to get her alone in another room before she screamed for help. Then he ran off, taking something with him. Immediately, my stomach dropped. I thought of the cashier from Spirit Halloween. I told him about him and how he'd overheard everything at the store. Everyone got tense after that. They talked about calling the cops, but decided not to since he was already gone. The rest of the party felt off after that. No one was really in the mood anymore. Cody and I left a little after midnight. As I started my car, I noticed a car parked 2 spaces behind us, turned on at the same time. I didn't think much of it until it made the same 4 turns as I did toward Cody's house. That's when I realized it was following us. I pulled over to the side of the road, hoping the driver would pull up next to us. Instead, the car slowed down for a few seconds, then suddenly sped past us, disappearing down the street. We couldn't see who was inside, but both Cody and I were sure it was him. After dropping Cody off, I stayed alert. A few blocks away, I saw another car parked on the side of the road with its lights off. It looked just like the one from before. I waited. The car didn't move. When I finally started driving again, it turned on its headlights and sped past me, just like before. I was completely shaken. I got home as fast as I could, parked in my driveway, and made sure I wasn't followed. The next morning, I called that Spirit Halloween and reported the cashier. They said they'd look into it, but I never went back there again. I don't know if he got fired or if they even believed me, to this day. I have no idea what he wanted, whether it was to follow me, crash the party, or something worse. But I'm just glad he never found out where I live. Halloween of 2019 was the most terrifying night of my life. I live in Australia, where Halloween isn't as big of a deal. We only get a handful of trick-or-treaters every year, but I've always loved it, even though my parents couldn't care less. I usually decorate the house myself and hand out candy. That year, Halloween fell on a school night. Around 6 p.m., a storm rolled in. The wind ruined most of my decorations, but I stayed up anyway, watching The Conjuring 2, while waiting for a few trick-or-treaters to show up. After about an hour, I got a message in our group chat from my friend M. He asked if anyone wanted to go trick-or-treating for fun. At first, I thought he was joking. We hadn't done that since we were kids, but with nothing else going on, I agreed. My other friends, S, C, and H, joined too. Then, weirdly, M said he couldn't make it, but told us to go to a certain house because they always give out a lot of candy. We went anyway. When we got there, we saw a big table on the porch with a pumpkin-shaped bowl full of lollipops. We looked around, saw no one, and emptied most of the bowl into our bags, leaving a few behind so it didn't look obvious. That's when we saw them. 2 men dressed as clowns, walking up the driveway toward us. Their faces were painted white, with giant smiles, their heads tilted unnaturally to the side. At first, we froze. Then one of my friends screamed as they started running straight at us, one of them even honking a red rubber nose as he chased us. We bolted after what felt like forever. We finally lost them. We decided to head to M's house to tell him what happened. When we got there, he answered the door, laughing. "What the hell are you guys doing?" he asked. "You told us to go to," we said. M looked confused. "I lost my phone earlier today." That's when we realized whoever had his phone had texted us pretending to be him and lured us to that house. We stayed at EM's house for a while, trying to calm down. Then we all headed home. When I got back, I went outside to collect the candy bowl from my porch. It was empty, but sitting in the middle of it was a clown nose. I told my parents what happened, but they brushed it off as a Halloween prank. That night, around 1 a.m., I woke up to a soft tapping on my window. It sounded like rocks hitting the glass. I was terrified, but curiosity got the better of me. When I pulled back the blinds, I saw that my Halloween decorations were destroyed, torn to pieces, and scattered across the yard. Then, something small hit the window again. It was a lollipop. I looked up and saw them, those same 2 clowns, standing on my neighbor's roof, staring down at me. I screamed and ran to my parents' room. They called the police. When the officers arrived, they checked around the property and then went to the house we'd been trick-or-treating at. It turned out the house was abandoned. Inside, they found EM's phone sitting on the floor. The next day, my friends told me they'd had creepy things happen at their homes that same night. We still don't know who those clowns were or how they tracked us, but with Halloween only a few weeks away again, I can't help but wonder if they'll come back. It was a stormy Halloween night. My friends John, Mary, and Keenan were hanging out at my house. We didn't have any real plans, so I decided to pull out the Ouija board from my closet. I thought it would be funny, but I still lit 3 candles and turned off the lights to set the mood. The 4 of us sat around the table, hands on the planchette. I started, "Is anyone there?" The planchette slid to Y, then E, then S. We all laughed, thinking someone was just pushing it. John and I started asking dumb questions, like, "Will you haunt Mary?" The planchette spelled YES, and she begged us to stop. Then, without anyone asking, it started moving again, spelling out the words, "I'm inside the house." We laughed nervously, but then we heard a unmistakable thump from directly above us, like a heavy boot stomping on the floor. All of us froze. Mary started crying. John and Keenan looked at each other, unsure if they should laugh or panic. My parents weren't home, and we didn't have pets. There was no reason for anyone to be up there. Then the doorbell rang. We all jumped. I went to the door and looked through the peephole. It was just a dad and his kid trick-or-treating under an umbrella. I handed them candy and shut the door, but the unease didn't go away. I convinced everyone to go upstairs with me to check. The only light came from a small nightlight in the hallway. As we reached the top of the stairs, we heard it again, a soft, muffled voice. It sounded like a girl whispering from inside my parents' bedroom. Then came the sound of something dropping onto the floor. Mary and Keenan ran back downstairs. John and I slowly approached the door. I pushed it open just enough to peek inside. Something tall was standing in the corner of the room. I slammed the door shut, and we ran down the stairs. We turned on all the lights. One of the candles by the Ouija board had gone out. I called the police. When the officer arrived, I led him upstairs. He opened the door, turned on the light, and checked the room. Nothing. Closet, under the bed, everywhere. Empty. After he left, we threw the Ouija board in the neighbor's trash bin. We sat outside, under the awning, listening to the rain and thunder and silence until my parents got home. That night, I barely slept, and I've never touched a Ouija board again.